Hello, Mark. Thank you for joining me today. I came across, someone once said that a goal not written down is just a dream. What do you think about that?
A goal not written down is just a dream. Very true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Myself, I will say that I always wanted to be rich. Yeah, whatever rich meant. I never wrote anything down, and it was only once I actually started on this property journey, having actually the book behind me, Rich Dad Poor Dad, did that start to come into it a little bit about writing down your goals, writing down your dreams, actually recording it, yeah, as such. And seriously, I thought it was a load of tosh, Simon. Yeah, I really thought it was a load of tosh.
You've actually just preempted my next question, which was: before you were a property investor, did you ever have a business plan or any goals for financial success?
Not really. Yeah. Well, me plan for financial success prior to doing all of this was £30 a week on the lottery. Yeah. £15 on a Wednesday and £15 on a Saturday. And that was my wealth plan. That was actually my wealth plan. Yeah. 30 quid a week on the lottery.
And how did that work out?
Yeah. It is interesting because the lottery is a bit of fun, but actually it is a lot of people's wealth plan because that's their only option of getting financially free that they see. And I was one of those people. Whereas once I started educating myself, right, and reading books, turning up on seminars, getting myself a coach, getting myself a mentor, right? All of that changed. Whereas I wouldn't have believed it would have changed in the way that it has done.
And it's down to, I mean, you've often said it, down to that one book, isn't it, Rich Dad Poor Dad?
It's down to that one book. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
that was the catalyst. Yeah. That was the day, as Jim Rohn would say, that's the day that turned my life around.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What we're particularly going to talk about today is planning and goal setting and the importance of it. And we're on the verge of 2022, and lots of people will be sort of thinking about their New Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
But New Year's resolutions are they usually fail by about January, don't they?
They fall away. Fall away. Yeah.
So, why do you think? Why do you think so many businesses fail? I mean, there's a huge percentage. It's almost a 90-odd%, isn't it, of businesses that start out fail within their first 6 months, a year, or something like that?
Yeah. Most businesses fail, I think, because it's not planned out right. People don't think about the cash flow, and they think they're going to make a fortune overnight, whereas actually a business is never an overnight success. I'll never forget me setting up on the market stalls, to be honest. Yeah, this is a great, yeah. So there I am. Okay, right, I'm going to make my fortune as a market trader. And I bought all these broken biscuits, and I bought a trailer. I paid for the stall. It was something like £70 for the day, if I remember rightly. And there I am. I've got me turned up at the market over at Aylesbury. Turned up at the market. It was a very dark day. Yeah, very dark day, I remember. And here we are. We're going to make a fortune selling broken biscuits. Yeah. I took £29.60. Yeah. Oh, and I just spent all this money trying to get this, make it look decent, and literally it was pathetic. Yeah, it was pathetic, right? And I had to adapt really, really quickly. Yeah, luckily I still had a bit of a job coming in. Yeah, right. So I was lucky there, right? But immediately I just thought this isn't working. So of all things, I actually went and had a look at a chap called Erwin Freeman up in Leeds Market. What was he selling? Yeah, and he was selling everything. I'm thinking, oh my god, where am I going to get all of this? But then the plan became, all I've got to do is copy this person. Yeah, and as long as I copy this person, then I'll be as successful. I never was as successful, but I had a good go at it. Yeah, never earned more than 25 grand, and I thought I was going to make millions.
So when was it, for the benefit of my viewer watching who doesn't know you? When did you change your career? When was it that you thought market trading, it's not going to work for me? When did you get into property?
Well, market trading, as you know, everybody will have watched Fools and Horses, yeah,
Yeah,
and there was a
it's coming
great
next year.
affirmation line in there. This time next year we'll be a millionaire, yeah, and it was always that was the actual attitude of the people on the market. But I did know that there was a better way, yeah, I did know there was a better way. But I just didn't rub shoulders with the right people. Yeah, they were all optimistic, but none of them was successful financially in any way, shape, or form. And it was May 2000, and I was in the room over here actually, and I should have been on a market stall in Kingston, of all places. Yeah. Should have been on a market stall in Kingston. And I wasn't there. And I was in the lounge and I was arguing with Elaine, who's my ex, who's literally does everything for me nowadays. Yeah. As such. And the Oprah Winfrey show was on. No, I mean, why was it at home? Why was Oprah on? And why did Robert Kiyosaki come on that day? And all he said was three words, was buy income generating assets. Boom. Why hadn't I thought of that? Yeah. Why not get my money working for me instead of me working for money? Yeah.
Mm.
Right. And immediately I went upstairs. Right. And it was early days Amazon. Early days Amazon. Yeah. And I bought the book straight
Mm.
away. Never hang around. If you're excited about something, do something there and then. That's part of the success story. If you're excited, do something there and then, and see what comes out of it. And that led me to early days Amazon. You're buying Rich Dad. Why don't you buy Russ's book, Building Wealth? Yeah, Russ Whitney's book, Building Wealth. And I bought the two, and that was the best investment I've ever made. Seriously, those two books. Because prior to then, Simon, I hadn't read for best part of 16, 17, 18 years. Thick,
Mm.
thick, thick. Yeah. I never realised that in one book, somebody can tell us how they've achieved success, right? Their life story, and I can read it in a weekend. Why hadn't I picked that up? Again, I'm thick. Yeah.
So what was the biggest learning that you took away from Rich Dad,
The
apart
biggest
from the
learning,
buy income producing assets?
work hard on yourself. Yeah,
Mm.
always be studying. He said in there something along the lines of read books, attend seminars, get a mentor, and all the other bits and bobs that go with it. It's in the book there.
Mm.
And there was no trainings then. There
Mm.
was no mentors in those days, right? So all I was doing was reading the book for the next 2 years,
Yeah.
and just hoping that something was going to jump out of it. And in
And then
May
along came Russ.
2000, Russ Whitney's organisation turned up. Yeah,
Mm.
which was, and because I was ready, I didn't have to wait to make the decision. I knew I was going to do it. I just
Mm.
now have the money.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You said something earlier about when you were on the markets, you went up to Leeds to see this other guy, and you copied him. And you've actually,
Yeah,
from all that you've been telling me now, you've done that. You've copied other people's
but I
techniques and
wasn't running it as
strategies.
a strategy, Simon.
Mm.
Right, it
But
wasn't
the
a
thought,
strategical
the thought was
approach.
there, was dropped in your mind that copy
Yeah,
someone else who was successful, and I
yeah.
can attain that. So
Well,
you,
that's the best way to achieve. Doesn't matter
yeah,
what
yeah,
you want to,
yeah, no,
right? Just copy what they do. If you want to be skinny and thin,
yeah,
right? Just what does a skinny and thin person do? Yeah, and just copy their habits.
yeah. So Ross Whitney came along. You got involved in his trainings, and
Yeah,
fast forward a few years, you've learned all sorts of stuff. You've invested in property.
yeah.
At what point did you understand the importance then of setting out a plan for a year, for 3 years, for 5 years, whatever? Can you remember?
The initial bit was when I did the property training, the initial property training, and people were saying about planning further out, right? That resonated me. Where do you want to be in 5 years' time? And you go, well, anywhere but where I am right now, skint, yeah. And that was really it, yeah. But over the years, I suppose I've studied um, success,
Mm,
yeah, as such, and I've realised that the people that think out the longest term are the most successful. Yeah, it's like this. We're going into the new year. And most people will write down their New Year's resolutions. Yeah,
mm,
right, and they'll give them up within a month. I believe it's less than a month before most people actually give up. Yeah, whereas the type of mentality you need is right. Where am I going to be in the next 10 years, 20 years? And actually, I will actually say I let myself down is because when I was in my 40s and I started this journey, I should have said, where am I going to be in my 90s?
hmm
But very, very quickly, I started to head that. It might sound absolutely crazy, but we are going to live a long time. Yeah. And I'm just seeing it with my old mum right now, and what it costs to keep her in care, what it costs to look after her. Everybody just thinks about the pension. They don't think about the care side of it,
mm.
which is if you've created wealth, it can get ripped away from you just like that.
Yeah, well, that's caused a lot of furor
Yeah,
all around the country in this last year with different changes into legislation and
exactly.
stuff. So when you're working with a new property investor, let's have a few sort of top tip moments, if you like. What's the first sort of steps that you get someone to do when they're writing out their plans, their
Well,
goals?
the root of all success boils down to desire. Yeah? And if people do not have desire, no matter what I do, right? If they can't be bothered, right, because they've not got the motivation to do it, and there's desire, and then there's burning desire. Yeah, right. I know when I first started on my journey, I was £80,000 in debt. 25 grand a year, never earned more than 25 grand a year as a street trader. And on those market stalls, I saw poverty. Yeah.
Mm.
And I knew that if I carried on the path that I was on, that I would end up skint. All it took was one illness, one sickness, one pandemic, and that would be me. I'd be Barasic. Yeah. And it was from that it became, yeah, I wanted it prior to doing all of this, right? Prior to I want to be rich, but now I had a number, right? I needed £2,000 a month just to make sure I could pay all my bills, right? And I wouldn't have to worry, and I wouldn't be going into poverty in my old age and all that type of stuff. And I set that number up, and I worked at it like crazy. Yeah. Um, it was a burning desire. The sad bit I see is that a lot of people think getting involved in property, getting involved, setting up a business, right? They think it's a quick fix. No, it's a long term thing. It's a very long term thing. Yes, you can get relative early success, but true success is, right? The phrase that I like to use nowadays is the name of the game is to stay in the game as long as possible. Yeah. You like that one?
That's a good one. Name of the game: to stay in the game as long as possible.
Yeah, and that way you take the benefit of compounding. Yeah,
Mhm. So to get that desire, I mean, that can come from lots of different places. It can be a financial situation. It can be the hate for your job, the hate for your boss, or um,
You want to do
maybe,
that to your mates.
yeah,
Yeah.
and just say,
Yeah.
yeah, I proved you wrong.
Yeah.
um, and you talked about the long term. So, how far ideally? I mean, you said you should have been thinking into your 90s. Is that the sort of starting point? Then is that what an
No, the
individual should do?
starting point is just have the desire. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. The desire to change in some way, shape, or form. Okay, right. So the way that I would approach it is I call it, just show up. You've heard me say it over and over again.
Mm.
80% of success is just turning up. Yeah. And if we can mix that in with consistency, right, and a positive attitude,
Hmm.
we can achieve anything. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. But it's getting all three all at the same time. I'm a big believer in this bit of just showing up. Yeah, doesn't matter what you do as long as you keep showing up. Right, you're 80% of the way.
Yeah.
Even if you just turn up and nothing happens, I'll guarantee the next time you turn up, you'll have it better planned.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what happens. Yeah.
So
So
showing up, but you've got to have some sort of plan in mind there.
right, what do I mean by show up?
Mm.
Yeah, right, okay, all right. So here we are. Let's say we're going to start property. Okay, right. So what do I need to do about property? Right, show up to me would be going to the networking events. It would be doing the trainings. It would be reading anything that I can about UK property or real estate around the world. I would also be looking at taking on board, reading the books of other successful people. What are the clues? That's the initial turning up. Yeah, that's the initial turning up. But once we've got, it all starts with a strategy. Right? Mine was income. Right, so all I'm going to do is focus on income properties. Right, and I've got to say there is that if you don't know what an income property looks like, find out what an income property looks like. Somebody brought me a great deal this morning over in Ipswich. This is fantastic. We really want to buy it. Blah blah blah. Right. Well, it was hemorrhaging. £300 a month at 4% interest rate. Well, no, that's an asset that's going to eat them alive. Yeah. So that I've got to say this. Education is absolutely core. Yeah, education is absolutely core. Going out there and doing it willy nilly, it might work. It might. Yeah, right. But to make it work speedily, right, that's where the training and education side of it comes in.
So what I'm getting there is then you've got to immerse yourself in it. You've got to turning your.
Immerse might not be the right word. Yeah.
Mm.
Right. So I've got my Think and Grow Rich book in front of me. Yeah. Right. Simple. Right. Attend a networking event
Mm.
monthly. Yeah. Um, um, when there's a training on, right, don't go, oh, it costs too much.
Mm.
Invest in yourself and
Mm.
attend. That's the way that I've learned. Yeah.
Mm.
Read 10 pages a day. Yeah. Mix, get people around you that are in the sphere of all of this. Yeah. Right. Rub shoulders with people that are doing it. Don't try and reinvent wheels in any way, shape, or form.
Mm.
Don't be a lone ranger because that strategy doesn't work. If that person this morning that I was speaking with had bought that property, boom, they wouldn't have been able to do anything for donkey's years. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is so that, like you said, it's the consistency then of doing all of these individual things on a regular basis.
Yeah,
In fact,
Simon, I read that book there behind me for 2 years.
yeah.
Okay, right. But what made the I just look in front of me right now. What made the difference was putting good stuff in my head.
Mm.
Yeah, and when the opportunity turned up, be around other people that are doing this. Yeah,
Mm.
that's it. Yeah,
Mm.
I mean, you know my story. It was working with um, uh, trainers, working with mentors, and actually being so close to the fire. That's what helped me. Yeah,
Mm. Mhm.
yeah,
So let's just think about. Let me ask you a very clear question. How should an investor be setting out their goals for this next year, for 2022? And I guess
Okay.
it depends on the level of experience, the approach that they take, doesn't it? Wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
Or is it fundamentally the same?
to me, it's fundamentally the same. It's it's a good way of putting it. What should they do? Right. So to me, you start with the outcome. Yeah. Not the goal,
Hmm.
the outcome. There's a difference between a goal and there's a difference between the outcome. What has to have happened? So if people are watching this, they might be saying, look, I need my first property, right?
Hmm.
Right. But make sure it's an income producing one. Make sure it's an income producing one. Maybe you've already got a handful of properties, right? Well, double your cash flow. Yeah? And that's the way that I look. I don't. It's not about the amount of properties. It's about the income that these things throw off, because it's the income that sets people free. So if I'm sat with somebody, working with somebody on a one-to-one, I'm just saying, okay, right, how much cash flow are we going to add in the next 12 months?
Hmm.
And based on that, then we work out what we're going to do. Yeah.
So it's as a good friend of ours would say, start with the end in mind.
Start with the end in mind.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between a purpose and a goal, right?
Hmm.
So the way that I would phrase it, here we are, this time next year, what has to have happened? Not what do I want to happen?
Yeah.
What has to have happened? Yeah, and then work backwards.
So that's focusing your mind in a very different way, isn't it?
It is. It is. Yeah.
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 Focuses on, like say, what has to happen. So it's not.
What has to have happened?
Yeah.
So that becomes the outcome. Yeah, that's the
Mm.
actual outcome. But then you say to yourself, all right, I want an extra £1,000 a month in income. Yeah,
Hmm.
okay. What's the purpose of having that? What is the actual purpose of it? Okay, that's really going to get me halfway to my financial freedom. And that's going to take me above financial freedom. If I don't do it now, right, then I've got to go back and accept the way the world was, etc. And that's the way I was thinking, right? And then once I've got the outcome, what I'm looking at, what I want to have happened, then I ask, what's the reason, right? Because it puts some backbone in there, helps with that overall burning desire, right? And then I say, right, what are the things that are going to make that happen? Yeah, and in property, it's working with as many people as I have over the years. Number one, just turn up,
Hmm.
right, in the area. Yeah, right. You're not going to get any properties if you don't turn up in an area. Believe it or not, some people believe they can. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but then people turn up in the area and don't view properties. Well, what's that about? Yeah, in property, the way to do it is turn up in the area, view properties, right? Make offers on those properties, right, and follow up like crazy, and build a network of people in that area so they're also hunting for you. That's the priority.
Mm. Well, I was talking with a Asset Academy student, Rosie Charles, earlier today, and she told me about her and her husband's initial strategy when they were going to investing in the world. They lived in Kent, and
Yeah,
they went there religiously every 3 weeks
yeah,
to view properties. And
yeah.
she also explained her cycle of working, that week one, they'd be booking the properties, week two, going to view the properties, week three,
That's
following up,
exactly it.
and
Yeah,
then
I,
repeating.
I followed a very similar path. Yeah, when
Yeah,
mine was every 2 weeks
yeah,
up to Blackpool. Yeah,
yeah.
and
She
it was
said it
on a
was
Sunday as well.
being consistent and being persistent. So consistent and persistent was their
Yeah.
secret to getting that first property. It took them 9 months, and
Well, I mean,
it wasn't
the
the
phrase
best
is,
deal, but it was getting that bloody
yeah,
property,
the
as
phrase
they were
is that
told.
they were willing to pay the price.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the price was turning up there, consistently
Hmm.
over a long period of time. Yeah, that's it. That's the difference that I see. People tell me, "Oh, I couldn't get to my area because my dog had a poorly paw." Yeah,
Mm.
well, yeah, okay.
And
You want
I,
success?
I did write down a question here, which I think was sort of answered, but I want to ask it anyway. So, how does someone decide on what is the most important thing to focus on?
That all boils down to what they want. Yeah.
Mm.
For me, I didn't want to be poor. Dead simple. So I needed income.
Mm.
Yep. And I'm gonna be. I'll put it out there that actually people come along. They want to buy property. They come along to the trainings. I want to buy property. I want to buy property. But actually, property is the vehicle to creating some form of security for them in the future, and property is one of those vehicles. Yeah, so yes, they want to buy property, but they're not 100% sure initially why they're buying that property,
Mm.
right? But it's to create security. Working on those market stalls, just taught me how easy it was to go from being wealthy to being skint.
Mm.
And the stories that I heard of people that had lost businesses, and all sorts of stuff, became ill and all this type of stuff. Oh, I used to be successful. I used to do this. I used to do that. But then, the back went or something,
Mm.
and they lost it all. Yeah. And people think that they've got lots of time, but they don't. And I was lucky. I think I was lucky enough to spot that. I rolled a van on the M1 many, many years ago, in the summer of '94, and I remember being scooped up off the motorway and sitting in the back of that ambulance saying, "There's got to be a better way." Yeah.
Mm.
So I was searching for a long time.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, from your point of view, it was you just don't want to be poor.
That was it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so did.
There's people out there, I want that Ferrari.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, be clever about it.
Mm-hmm.
Buy the assets that pay for the Ferrari.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what a Ferrari costs. Say it costs £2,000 a month.
Mm.
Okay. Right. Well, you're not buying it until you've got your £2,000 a month.
Mm. Mm.
You're not renting it because that's what they'll end up doing. Yeah.
So once you've got your plans in place or your strategy in place, should you slavishly stick to the plan and and just do that, or do you need to review and
Well,
revise it
yeah,
from time
no,
to
you,
time?
you are constantly reviewing. Yeah,
Mm.
constantly reviewing. Yeah. And your actions should be giving you some form of feedback. Um, and what do I mean by feedback? So there you are, you're turning up in the area, you're talking to estate agents, you're putting offers in, and they're all being rejected. Okay. Right. Now, if you're on your own or you've not been trained, that could be really worrying. Oh, it doesn't work. Oh, it
Mm.
doesn't work. Well, yes, it does, because there's other people out there that are doing things slightly different than just turning up and talking to an estate agent. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So again, that there is the power of the community within the within Asset Academy, in my eyes. No.
So that's another example then of not sort of doing it on your own is not going to be it's not going to be successful. It's not going to be always work for you. So sharing your plans and ideas with others, is that a good
Yeah.
idea?
That's definitely a good idea. Rubbing shoulders
Yeah,
all the time. Yeah.
because you'll get feedback, you'll get different points of view. You'll sometimes be
Yeah.
told point blank, no, that's not going to work. Try it this way instead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. Yeah.
And how often then do you sit down and write your plans out? Is it annually, quarterly,
Okay.
more
Right.
frequent?
So maybe I'm a little bit OCD nowadays compared to where I was. But in the summer, before the end of the year, so August time normally, I write out what I want to have achieved by the end of the following year. Well, okay. So the first thing that I'm doing is, and I'm going here because that's where it's all kept on the phone, yeah, on my notes, and I just write out what I want to have happened by the end of the following year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right, and I can drop into these notes anytime, anything. But when it gets to the actual end of the year, so it literally is between Christmas and New Year, I actually do a big mind map. that as well, right? Rather than just the notes, because the mind map works for me. Yeah. And when I do that, right, so then it's there. And what I do is once it's all on one big piece of paper, this is me. Yeah. I then ask myself one question. Yeah. If I only did one thing this year that's going to have the most positive impact on my life going forward over the next donkey's years, right? What's that one thing? And I will identify what it is. And just so as you know, it's increased my passive income every single year because once with income, I can do anything with it. Yeah, I can do anything with it. But then I also say, okay, right, that's the big one. Okay, right. What's the one thing that I could do in my property portfolio to make it better? What's the one thing that I can do to work on me to make it better? What's the one thing that I can do in the businesses to make it better? What's the one thing in my home to make it better? What's the one thing with my finances to make it better? You know, you could say that's net worth and that's the passive income. And then I have a whole thing just about community, which is just my relationships. What's the one thing? With my family, it's dead simple. Just create harmony all the time.
You should write a book called The One Thing.
Somebody's already done it.
Oh, they.
Which is, but that is again, right? That strategy I would not ever have thought about if I hadn't picked up on it somewhere in the books that I've been reading and the people that I've been meeting.
So, slightly different direction here, just sort of generally thinking about the property market.
Yep.
What do you see happening over this next sort of 12, 18 months? I mean, there's so many things on the horizon. Renters reform, the reform bill. Are we going to have more tax changes? Is there going to be an interest rate rise? How do you see the private rented sector, and we'll include buy-to-let and HMO in that? I think it's fair. So,
Okay.
any
Right, so
predictions?
over an 18-month period, I don't know where the market's going. Quite simple. It is that simple. Yeah. Right. And I don't think anybody should even try and predict what's happening. Yeah. Because nobody can predict with consistency. Yeah. Okay. But what I can tell you, Simon, is if you buy an asset today, property, that cash flows today, puts money in your pocket today, and you sit on it for the next 10, 20 years, it's going to be worth a lot more than it is today. Yep. Okay. You know, it's I've just been doing some work on this. You know, the first property that I bought in 1983, yeah, I bought for £17,000. The last time it sold in 17, it was worth 560.
Is that the Dulwich property in southwest London?
That's the
Southeast
village
London.
property.
Yeah.
Yeah. This house that I'm in here,
Yeah.
right? I bought this one for it had been on the market for 100. How about this? I'd been on the market for 100. Yeah. I got it for 90. Yes. Got a bargain. 2 years later, there was a recession and it was valued at 56. So I was in negative equity for the best part of 7 years. But that taught me one of the biggest lessons of all. Make sure you've got cash flow, right? Because I didn't have to sell it. Yeah. Right. And that's why cash flow is so important in investing. Yeah. You've got this purse that never empties. It keeps coming in. Right. So if things did go wrong, we've got the cash flow. We've got the income coming in from it. Yeah. And that was one of the big lessons for me, one of the big lessons that I could pass on. But today, now it's worth 360, 4 times what it was. Yeah. All right.
Well, I had a drink with a mate of mine who bought a property just down the road. He's not an investor. He just bought it to live in and then moved out to somewhere in Hampshire. But he's just recently moved back. But yeah, he's had it about 10 years, and it's just about doubled in value.
Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, as a perfect
You know,
example.
Simon, Simon, there's no, to me, the property, there is no better way for the average man to become wealthy
Or
or
woman.
create wealth other than through property. You might be lucky, right, with a business, but as we know, 95% of all businesses are whacked within the first 12 months. Yeah. Whereas with property, all right, and again, it's as long as you're buying, like I've got to say it, property with income, right? When the dark days come, it'll still pay for itself. Yeah, and that's it. Yeah, and if the dark days do come, the rents don't go down, right? The values go down, which means even more cash flow. So buy more.
Yeah. And if rents go down because taxation changes again, do you still buy more? To what's your
Well,
attitude to that?
if you're saying it's all about taxation and stuff like that, you've got to look at it, yeah, right. But it's
The numbers have still got to work at the end of the day, haven't they?
Warren Buffett says something really cool, yeah. Let me just see if I can find it, Simon. It's really good, right? So and again, this is learning from other great investors, their mindset, yeah. And it's, because people will say, oh, the stock market's a bit dodgy. Yeah, I get that. Yeah. It is. Yeah. Right. But Warren Buffett there, in the 20th century, the United States endured 2 world wars. That's a bit of chaos. Yeah. And other traumatic and expensive military conflicts. The Depression, massive depression, yeah, a dozen or so recessions, a financial panic, oil shocks, flu epidemic, and the resignation of a disgraced president. Yet the Dow Jones rose from 66 to 11,000. Yeah, right. And it's that bit there of having that longer time frame, right, mentality is so positive. Yeah. You can just see there's so much noise. Press, I love the press. Yeah. They're all, but the press is just there to create stories,
Yeah.
just create stories. The facts are, right, the facts are, is that asset values have been increasing exponentially in Western civilization for millennia. Millennia, right? So you just follow the trend. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Unless we become a communist society, right? Or somebody drops a very very big bomb. Yeah. Then that's the only scenarios that I see.
And when we started out this podcast with the intention of how you set plans, but so much has come up that's interweaved within it, and some of the things that I've jotted down as we've been talking, and that desire is important, showing
Yeah,
up and being consistent is important.
yeah,
Have an end in mind, and what has to happen to get into that end in mind, and
yeah,
purpose is huge, and share your
yeah.
plans as well, with
Share your
others.
plans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a long term thing. And you just talking about the press there. The press to me are always short term. They very
It's
rarely do they sort of
tomorrow.
talk
Yeah.
yeah, it's all about because tomorrow. Yeah. I mean,
The press is
yesterday's
going
news
to
is
today.
today's chip paper. I mean, there's an
No,
old
no,
fashioned phrase for you.
Simon, the press are out there today telling young kids, oh, it costs a fortune, to buy your own house. Well, people up north, and I'm not, I'm a northerner, but house prices are not that expensive up north, and actually normal people can afford their own homes, but they're not educated that because the press is telling them, all the negative stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, really is. Prices are going through the roof. Yeah,
There's
right.
going to be
Well,
a
they're not
crash.
in Blackpool. Yeah.
Yeah. Or the other way, there's going to be a crash, or
Oh, there's always going to be a crash.
interest
Yeah,
rates are going and go up, and you won't be able to repay your mortgage. Yeah. And so again, that's another perfect example, isn't it, of short term thinking. Whereas buying a house for a homeowner is a long term thing, and that's
yeah, And and again, right, if interest rates are going up, that's why it's important to ensure that you're buying an income generating asset that we stress test in the way that we do within Asset Academy.
And that's
Yeah.
where I was just going to say, and where do we learn all this? With
Yeah.
a reputable training company such as Asset Academy.
Obviously.
Obviously. Brilliant. So much there. I'm sure anyone listening will have taken away even just one nugget, and they'll be successful. And I love the phrase that you reminded me of. I haven't heard you say it for a long time. Was what's the one thing I can do that will
have the biggest impact on what's the one thing that will have the biggest impact, positive impact on my life going forward?
Yeah.
You can ask yourself that question every day. If I only do one thing today, which one thing is going to have the most positive impact on my life going forward? Yeah. Yeah, you can do that on a monthly basis. You can do it on a quarterly basis. Yeah. You know, the boy upstairs right now, right? The one thing is 5 houses in the next 10 years. 5 houses over here, very specific strategy that we're going to do because he's a lazy little bugger.
Is he in earshot?
No.
All right, last question before we go then. Who do you think will be the next James Bond?
I would like to think me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to be James Bond. Yeah. Always wanted. Yeah. I mean, how cool is that? You know, he's a good role model. Yeah.
Yeah.
He knows the difference between good and bad.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
He knows what his goal is and focuses on it and single-mindedly. Yeah. So, I mean, what was a joke question has actually brought up some really, really relevant points.
It does, yeah, very much so. I'm the next James Bond.
Yeah, but I don't think you sort of fit in with Barbara Broccoli's sort of plan for the future. I think she's got a massive reboot in mind, and it's going to be a very young actor who's playing Bond. So,
well, that's something to do with that's ageism. I'm sure it
is. Brilliant. Thank you, Mark.
Okay,
great stuff. I'll see you soon.
Boom.
Thank you very
Pleasure.
much.
Absolute pleasure, Simon.
So you can see there's loads more to learn about property investing. And guess what? These videos, they're all ready for you to learn even more. So click either one of these right now, and you can get some more information on how to grow your portfolio. Click the video. That one. Either one. Go on.